Is his grace sufficient? Is his grace sufficient for you? In 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 9, Paul was speaking about this, and the Lord spoke to him in the middle of his trial and said, "My grace is sufficient for thee." And Paul said, "When I am weak, then am I strong." There was a relationship in 2 Corinthians between Paul and God. There was a communion between him and God. And God's thoughts and Paul's thoughts was opposite. When you look in 2 Corinthians 12, Paul wanted it to stop. In fact, he prayed to the Lord that it would stop. But the Lord spoke back to him, "My grace is with you during the storm," or "My grace is sufficient for thee." Paul was very quickly changed. Even in these verses, we can see in verse 10, the Bible says, "Therefore I take pleasure in infirmities, in reproaches, in necessities, in persecutions, in distresses, for Christ's sake. For when I am weak, then am I strong." Paul had such a positive confession. I encourage you today to receive his grace and to walk in it and believe his grace. Even in the middle of all of life's questions, is grace able? Can grace hold you? Is his amazing grace even present in your life? Is your situation greater than his grace? In the midst of all life's questions, I want to encourage you today that his grace is sufficient for you, for your situation, for your life issues, for the pressing problems in your life. His grace is sufficient for you. And in the midst of all of your agonizing needs or in your deepest valleys, he is there. In your darkest crisis, his grace is sufficient for you. I encourage you to trust him today, believe him today, and have confidence in him today.